Hello and welcome into another pregame live show. I am Matt O'Leary, joined by Connor Long. Connor, how's it going, my friend?
Matt, doing well despite this team's, horrific play this season. I was starting to think, just where does this team rank among most disappointing seasons in franchise history? And I think it has to be number one, right, Matt? Because there have been a lot of disappointing seasons for the Jets. There's no question about it. But I can't think of a season in franchise history where it was more disappointing than this.
No, that's not recency bias because you look at what the expectation
Mhm.
was for this team. If you told me like in August that the Jets would be 3-9,
No way.
my thought would have been, oh man, Aaron Rodgers got hurt again, or something like someone really
Yeah.
important got hurt. And yeah, he's played banged up, but he's played in every single game. And the Garrett Wilson's played, Sauce Gardner, Breece Hall, and somehow, some way, this team has just completely missed on what the expectation was. So really disappointing season. Unfortunately, not a whole lot to watch for in this game or the remaining games here. I
Yep.
see you rocking the Mets hat. I'm like
There we
half
go.
hoping we get a Juan Soto update while we're
That's
live.
why I was wearing it. That's why I was wearing it for the Juan Soto update. Mets brought in Clay Holmes the other day. I don't know if I like him, Matt, in a starting role for the Mets. He hasn't been a starter, I think 6 years it was, in the league, and he was a bit shaky out of the Yankees pen last year, but apparently they're looking to seek another starter. So hopefully our Mets can give us something exciting again this season, Matt.
I hope so. That
Yeah.
could save our sports fandoms here a little bit. That would be nice.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anyways, it's today's a really interesting game because with a Jet win, obviously the playoff chances are done. That's pretty much signed, sealed, delivered. No matter if they win, they'll technically still be alive, but we all know this team isn't going to the playoffs. However, if the Jets come out with a win, that pretty much, ends Miami's chances of making it to the playoffs, which I think will be really nice because I don't know about you, Matt, but the Dolphins are one of my least favorite teams in the league. Just probably the Patriots are my least favorite. Dolphins are second least favorite among teams in the league. So, I'm hoping for a Jets win today. Give us something excited. Breece Hall, Braylon Allen out of the backfield. Hopefully they give us something to root for. But today I have the Dolphins just absolutely demolishing the Jets.
Yeah, I think this is a really bad matchup for the Jets. And
Yes.
we got word yesterday that Breece Hall is officially going to be out for this game. So no
Mhm.
Breece. So it's going to be the Braylon Allen show. And I guess, maybe I spoke too soon. I said there's not a whole lot to watch for. That's something to watch
Yeah.
for in this game if you want to see, if Allen could be a nice running mate going forward for Breece Hall. That'd be a good sign. But Sauce Gardner is unlikely to play today. And when you look at the speed the Miami Dolphins have on offense,
Oh,
I,
yes.
I think it's going to be a really big problem. Now, it seems like for whatever reason, Brandon Eccles has an interception every single time they play Tua and the Dolphins, which maybe that's the positive spin zone. But even still, like, I just look at this and I know that the offense for the Miami Dolphins hasn't been up to par this year in comparison, and they're coming off a week where they scored just 17 in Green Bay. But the 2 weeks before that, they put up 34 against New England. They put up 34 against the Raiders. I think they're going to be right around 30 points again in this game.
Yeah, I have them scoring 35. I'll throw my score prediction out here a little early, Matt. I want to get your thoughts. I have the Jets losing 35-21, but I think it's going to be one of those games where the Dolphins are ahead 21-28 nothing as we enter halftime or, midway through the second quarter, and then the Jets go out and score some garbage time touchdowns to make the scoreboard look a little prettier. But I don't think it's going to be fun. Devon A-Chain, I think, is going to run all over them, whether it's, handoffs or I think in the screen game, the Jets are going to get killed. The tackling got a bit better last week, but it's still, subpar. I think it needs to get a lot better. But if this Jets team wants to find some way to sneak out a win, I think I'm going to hone in on two things. First thing is establish the run game early on. We look in what the Jets did last game against Seahawks. What helped them get into such a good groove, the special teams turnovers were great, but they established the run game. Breece Hall got involved early. Braylon Allen got involved early, and Isaiah Davis even found his way into the end zone for his first career touchdown. So I want to establish the run game, and I also want to play complementary football. You look and what happened last week in Seattle. First off, the Jets haven't been able to play complementary football all season. But you look at what happened in Seattle. The Jets were leading 21-16 entering the break. But you don't score a point in the second half, and you allow 10 unanswered. And Matt, I don't care how ahead you are entering the break. you can't expect to win a game by not scoring in the second half. You have to score points in the second half. So if they want to somehow sneak away with a win, complementary football, establish the run game early, Matt. Those are my two things.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point for if things are going to go right for the Jets. Me, I have it, I think 30-16, something like that.
Okay, so we're similar.
Yeah, so similar. I would be really surprised if the Jets held Miami under 28 points. I think this is a game where they're going to get up right around 30 points. And for the Jets offensively, I know Miami's defense has struggled. I just, for whatever reason, the last few years, it feels like when they go down to Miami, like it's usually a clunker. So a double-digit loss on the road to Miami, a team that's still desperate, right? They're coming off a loss and fighting for their playoff lives. They essentially need to win out. They're going to be a desperate team. They play better at home. I think this is going to be a tough one. But if the Jets were to win this game, I like the point that you bring up on the run game. I think it's going to be really, honestly, turnovers is something that they have to create. They're unable to. This team mostly has been unable to create turnovers. They had a couple on special teams this past week, and that still wasn't enough for them to win the game. But I think you're going to have to turn Tua over a couple times, steal an extra possession or two, and kind of win ugly if they were to get one on the road. But I wouldn't say that's very likely this week, unfortunately.
Matt, we know Ulbrich went out and he said that Aaron Rodgers is their starting quarterback. No matter, if he stays healthy, he's going to start every game, play every snap for the Jets this season as their signal caller. Let's say he gets banged around, which I think he will. I don't think the offensive line is going to have a great day today. I think Dolphins are going to create a lot of pressure. He gets sacked a ton, pressures a ton. Is this a game where we could possibly see Tyrod Taylor if things get ugly? I know the Cardinals game, they left Aaron Rodgers in for the entirety of that game, despite them losing 30-6. Any chance, Tyrod takes a few snaps under center?
Sure, anything's possible. It depends on how this game is playing out. Rodgers has been banged up multiple times this year. Rodgers has kind of felt like he's going to play through whatever it takes to get through this season and get through this. I would say this game, but I think he wants to start every game. I don't think he wants to go out riding the bench. I think it would be bold of Ulbrich to make a move like that. I'm not against making a move like that. I find it hard to believe that the Jets would actually pull the trigger and do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotten to the point, Matt, where he's literally played through every injury humanly possible. So why would you pull the trigger now unless it's some crazy game where they go somehow down, 4 or 5 scores, and then it's like you might as well just throw Tyrod in like they did in garbage time of week 1 against the 49ers, where he actually looked okay. Braylon Allen looked okay in that game as well in garbage time. So, there's just so many moving pieces. It's so hard to, really pick one thing to hone in on. Quantez Stiggers, he's out today. He's with an illness. Today would have been a great opportunity for him. We all know what happened last week with that brutal pass interference call on his second snap of the season. So, it's a lot of it's up in the air today. You mentioned Brendan Eccles. Who else do you want to focus on the defensive side of things? Eccles is the only player with interceptions for the Jets this season, I believe. He leads the team with 2. So, who are some other guys other than Eccles you want to look at today?
Yeah, sticking in the secondary, I think Tony Adams would be a name to watch. He kind of got back in the fold this past week against Seattle. And he's someone who in the past, at least last year, he showed a tendency to, intercept a pass or two along the way. We know that the Dolphins like to push the ball down the field and take their deep shots. So maybe there's one where, Adams could keep up with a Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill and pick one off in this game. So from looking at the secondary, Adams is the next name that's jumping out to me.
Yeah, and the safety room's really interesting, Max. I want to get your thoughts on what they're going to do overall with the safety room at the end of the season. Do you think they're going to completely revamp it? Because Tony Adams, his contract is up at the end of the season. Chuck Clark, his contract is up at the end of the season. I think Ashton Davis is a free agent at the end of the season. So same with Isaiah Oliver. What do you think they do there? I have them bringing Chuck Clark back, and then Tony Adams has a ROFA, first of I think right refusal or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, and they could bring him back on that tender for $960,000 next season. What do you think they do there?
I'm gonna give a really cliche answer, but I don't know how else to answer it. I think it's gonna really depend on what coaching staff they bring in and what they want to do with their system. It wouldn't surprise me if some guys who the Jets have either drafted or found an undrafted free agency that they like a lot, this next regime, whether it be the GM or the coach, maybe they don't. Like Tony Adams is a name that I think fits that bill. Jamie and Sherwood's a free agent also. Like I kind of just wonder what this next group is going to look at the defense and what pieces they want to keep. I think they might want to bring in some of their own guys. That's totally okay. That tends to happen with regime changes. So honestly, I don't think I'd be surprised if they decided to move on there.
Yeah, and the head coach talks, we're going to get back today, obviously. We're going to get back to the game today, obviously. Head coach, GM discussion starting to heat up, Matt. We were talking before the show of Rich Cimini's list of the 9 head coach candidates he thinks the Jets are going to go after. When all said and done, we all love the Mike Vrabels of the world. Realistically speaking, who do you think is the head coach of this team next season?
Rex, maybe. Why not? Let's get really nuts. I think Aaron Glenn's a name that's going to get talked about a lot. I think that one's probably pretty likely also. Unfortunately, I think if they miss out on a Mike Vrabel type of coach, I think they would go with someone that they know in Aaron Glenn. So my hope is Vrabel. My prediction would be like maybe Rex or Aaron. But I don't think it's going to be an offensive coordinator.
My dream right now, Matt, I've pretty much made it clear, is Cliff Kingsbury. The work he's done with developing quarterbacks over his coaching career, whether it's been, as an offensive assistant, as an offensive coordinator, or even as a head coach with the Cardinals, when Kyler Murray pretty much credited Kingsbury with a lot of his development. So I really like Kingsbury. The thing I like about Aaron Glenn is Taylor Engstrad is, I think, a name to watch for the Jets' offensive coordinator job. Next season, he's the passing game coordinator for the Lions. So Aaron Glenn comes over. That opens the door for Engstrad as the OC. And then John Dorsey, who I am a huge fan of, as the GM, or even Ray Agnew, who's the assistant GM of the Lions right now. So that's the main thing I like about Aaron Glenn, but I don't think this team's attracting, a Ben Johnson.
Yeah, I don't see Ben Johnson coming here. It seems like he has a lot of
like a laundry list,
almost, of what he's looking for in an organization. I don't think the Jets seem like the fit there for him. So I think he's either going to Chicago or like a Cincinnati Bengals or something like that.
Now, do you think they give Belichick an interview, Matt?
Who?
Jets. Tannenbaum and Spielman. No?
No.
Really?
No. I don't think he would take an interview, even if the Jets wanted, even if from the Jets side, if they were interested. I don't think he would take an interview.
What would your reaction be if the Jets hired Bill Belichick as their head coach?
I'd have to pinch myself because I would think that I'm not in the conscious state.
Yeah, I don't know what I would do, honestly, because I obviously hate Belichick from his time with the Patriots, but he hasn't won without Brady in his career. They pretty much made that clear, and Brady's been able to have success without him. So, what Bill Belichick are we really getting? Is my main question. At that point, would you rather take a flyer on an unproven coordinator like a Liam Cohen from the Bucks?
Then someone like Bill, yeah, I would say probably, which might sound nuts to people because of the past success that Bill Belichick has had. But what you pointed out there was what he has done away from Tom Brady and how that's impacted his legacy. And also, you kind of, if you're going to hire Belichick, you kind of need to give him roster control too, I would think. And I don't think he did a great job when he was kind of leading the GM role as well up there in New England. So I wouldn't want to turn the organization over to him.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyways, let's get back to today. Something to watch today is Garrett Wilson. He's someone who's really stuck through all the poor quarterback play throughout his career with the Jets, and I do believe they'll pick up his 5th-year option at the end of the season, then consider an extension, possibly a few weeks into next season. What do you think happens with Garrett Wilson at the end of the season? Does he get that 3rd consecutive 1,000-yard season, and what can we expect from him today? Do you expect him to be, pretty much locked down? Do you expect, a door to be open for a guy like Malachi Corley? What do you think that looks like today?
Well, Alan Lazard is back, so I would expect Malachi Corley to be banished back to the bench. I would not expect a lot of Malachi Corley. I believe Garrett Wilson's on pace for just over 1,000 yards this year, which would be his 3rd straight 1,000-yard season. He's at 763 with 5 games left. I think he gets there. I think he ends right around where he was his rookie year, 1,100 yards. And that would be really impressive to me because, again, it's rare that we've seen Jets receivers come in and have this kind of production. That's the guy that I would look to sign first. I know that they have the 22 draft class coming up on extension talk time. Garrett Wilson would be the one that I would extend. I look at comparable contracts, Devonta Smith and what he got with the Philadelphia Eagles. Same thing with Jalen Waddle, in this game, even against the Miami Dolphins. I think it's going to be right around $28 million a year, 28 to 30. And
Yeah, that 3 for 75, kind of something like that.
Yeah, I think for Garrett, it's worth it. And I would make that decision.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see what they do there, obviously, with that draft class. Right now, Garrett's the only one I feel comfortable extending to a lucrative multi-year deal. Sauce needs to show me that he's able to bounce back from what's been a less than stellar season compared to his first two, first-team All-Pro campaigns. And Jermaine Johnson, I'm a big fan of him. He has a ton of upside, but I think what the new regime needs to do is evaluate him at the end of next season and how he played coming off a rough Achilles injury. So, there is a chance that Garrett's the only guy who walks out with a long-term extension. What I think they do with Breece is they franchise tag him for next season, and then they evaluate after that. Do they want to extend him, or does he walk? When all said and done, I think he plays under the tag, and then he walks the year after. So that's what I think happens with the draft class. I see we do have a caller on the line. But before we get to the caller, Matt, you mentioned Lazard there, the chest injury. It's a bit of an odd injury. He was activated. He cleared to play, a few days ago in today's game. What could we expect out of him from a target standpoint? I know you said, he might step up in the place of Malachi Corley, who's most likely going to be taking a seat because he's back. What do you think happens there?
I think he gets a lot of targets. He had 5 touchdowns in 7 games, and he was targeted here. I'll read off some in the 7 games. He was targeted 4, 7, 9, 8, 3, 4, 9 times. I think he's probably going to get somewhere around 7 targets, probably 5 or 6 catches, and probably a touchdown. Aaron Rodgers loves the guy. It was working early on in the season. I think we're going to see a lot of Allen Lazard and Devontae Adams today.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I would not be surprised at all to see him. I'll go 5 catches for like 65 yards, something like that.
I like that. Yeah, I'm thinking of something similar, 5 or 6 catches. I think he gets around 70, 75 yards. I think him and Rodgers connect on a few deep balls today. Hopefully Rodgers doesn't overthrow him 25,000 times like he did to Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson last week. But really appreciate you all sticking with us. All the diehards are here still despite this miserable season. So smash that like button. Make sure you are subscribed to both of our channels, at Matt O'Leary NY, at NY Flight Jetstuck. If you want to call into the show, you could do so by clicking the pinned comment at the top of both of our chats. Let's get to our first caller, our guy, Doug on the bed. Doug, how you doing?
Hi, guys. At this point, I don't even call in because I care about the games. I just like having our weekly chats at this point.
There we go.
Right? Yeah.
I was getting nervous that you weren't going to call in. I was hoping you were okay.
I would never, ever miss an opportunity to call into this show.
There we go.
I'm honestly, that hurt a little bit, Matt. I'm not going to lie.
Well, I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you called in.
All I care about today is I have Braylon Allen and Garrett Wilson on my fantasy team, and I'm in a battle for the last playoff spot. So as long as those two have a great day, I don't care about anything else.
Yeah. Matt, what are your thoughts there?
I like it. I'm in on both those guys having a big day. Unfortunately, though, for you, Doug, like I was just saying before you hopped on, I think it's going to be a lot of Devontae and Allen Lazard today.
Well, that would be tragic because then I probably won't get into because if I win this week, it's going to come down to points unless the other guy who I need to lose. And I just could Garrett Wilson go like for 10 catches, 200 yards, but like all get stopped at the 1, and then Braylon Allen has like 4 touchdowns. Like that. Oh yeah.
If the Jets even score 28 points, that would be.
Yeah. And, like, we can lose. I don't care. But like if that happens, I'd be euphoric because there's a pot at the end of the season in my fantasy league, and I could always use the extra bit of money. So, but like who cares what the results at this point? The report yesterday or came out this morning from Rap about the Jets wanting to be a quarterback, but that's like more of a Woody thing. How do you know you want to pick a quarterback who you don't even know who the GM is going to be yet? So
That was my exact thought too, is how could we have no idea who the GM and coach is. How are we going to say that they're going to take a first-round quarterback?
Yeah, I'm Team Vrabel though. Like I know he started as interested.
Mhm.
I am Team Vrabel. I know some people aren't, which I think those people are dumb who aren't, but I'm Team Vrabel.
Yeah, I really like Vrabel just because of his head coaching experience. He's proven he's able to bring in the right people. Like I've made it clear, I'm a fan of Cliff Kingsbury. Anthony Lynn is someone that Rich Cimini listed. I'm not opposed to him. Again, another offensive-minded guy.
Yeah.
He has head coach experience, over 500 as a head coach in his career. So the biggest thing I'm looking for right now is someone who actually has head coach experience and someone who's offensive-minded and has been able to develop a quarterback. That's why I'm a huge fan of Kingsbury.
I would prefer offensive minded, but I think as we're seeing, it's not as much about what they come from before. It's who they hire under them what matters more than
Yeah.
versus what their mindset is. Because look at like Dan Campbell, he's hired the right people, and that's helped the Lions build to where they are. You know, Vrabel was a defensive guy, but he hired the right people in Tennessee, and that got them to where they are. So if you get the right coach and then get like the right assistants under them, I think that's more important than like say but like say you got Ben Johnson, he's this genius offensive mind, but if he hires someone terrible on the defensive side, that kind of devalues him. And I saw Jake Asman tweet about it the other day. Ben Johnson better be
Yeah.
great the way he's talking, because he's talking like he's the greatest thing. He's talking like he's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
So better hope he's all that. He better hope he's the next Sean McVay, because if he's not, he's gonna look like the biggest asshole ever.
Well, I think the thing with Johnson, Matt, I want to get your thoughts here too, is he's making this whole laundry list of things because he wants to go to a good team and coach. I don't think he's going to want to come to the Jets and Raiders, and that's the way he's going to want to start off his coaching career, with a 3-14, 4-13 type season. I think the ideal spot is if somehow Zach Taylor gets canned in Cincinnati and he can go in and coach Joe Burrow. I think that is the ideal landing spot for him, but I don't think he's going to go in and coach some dumpster fire like the Jets. I think the Jaguars job might be is going to be appealing for him just because they have Trevor Lawrence, and that's a quarterback he can develop. The problem with the Jets is they don't have a quarterback right now, so they're going to need to find a quarterback before they bring in big names.
Sorry, and then I'll let Matt go. I didn't mean to.
Yeah, all good.
A quarterback that I would be considering, and I know people would have trauma because of Christian Hackenberg. I think Drew Aller would be a really good pro quarterback.
I think he's going to stay in school.
If
he played awesome last night.
Yeah, like he has the size, and people say Hackenberg. The difference is Hackenberg only did it all in his freshman year, and if you ever watch Hackenberg after freshman year, Penn State, it all went downhill. Aller has gone up every year since he's been a starter, and he has the size. You can see the talent, but he's not a guy you want to throw in right away. I know people like, oh, Aller, but I think he's a guy. He's a guy in this class who I think will be the best NFL quarterback in the long term. I don't know if you guys agree, but
Matt, what do you got there?
I'm starting to, I've started to get into the process on these quarterbacks, and I'm starting to like Aller. I am. I think he's raw, but the Jets would be drafting him not necessarily to put him in and play right away. And I think he has some traits that some of these other quarterbacks that are potentially going to go earlier, like Milroe or Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders,
and I think
they don't have the same things that he does.
Like you saw that throw he made to cut it to 8, like that throw that guy dragged on him. That's an incredible throw that only few people can make. And he made a couple of mistakes, but that's what happens when you're in college. He makes throws that I know that the people say that, but he's also doing that in the Big Ten championship game against the best team in the country. The throws he's making, so he's doing it. He's making good throws. I think he's a guy. If you have him sit for like a year. Also, I'm of the belief if he does stay and go back next year, I think he'll only get higher and then next year's quarterback class is a lot better because you have Arch, you have Nico, and then you would have Drew Aller. And I would rather have Arch or Nico over any of the guys in the QB class this year.
I'd like Cam and Shedeur though. I really like Milroe as well. I see a comment here from where is it? I just saw it from Dakota. Here it is. Draft Milroe or Dylan Gabriel. This was
Dylan Gabriel. He's
so small. He's 5'11". Yeah.
Old. I think you see.
He's 23. I think.
No, I think he's like 24. Let
me check.
Because he started at UCF and he had a
really. He's 23. He's 23.
Yeah. But so he's still on the older side. He started at UCF, had a bad leg injury, and then transferred to Oklahoma, and then he's been at Oregon.
The thing I like about Jalen Milroe, man, I want to get you in here as well, is his intangibles. I think he has, what he brings to the table from an athleticism standpoint, a size standpoint. I think he's 6'2", 220, 225, something like that. So I really like him from a size and an athleticism standpoint, and he's able to make big plays.
Yeah, I agree with you, by the way. And if someone
Yeah.
who takes him early, they're going to be taking him on that. The accuracy concerns, I think, are legit.
He's not at all accurate. He throws a beautiful deep ball, but you know who else throws a beautiful deep
Zach
ball?
Wilson.
No, I was going to say Joe Milton. And people like Patriots.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When the season started, they were like, "Oh, Joe Milton should be the quarterback. Joe Milton should be the quarterback." And that's people who never actually watched Joe Milton do anything more than throw a ball, because Joe Milton was awful and could not, like, the problem with Joe Milton, he throws every ball 1,000 miles per hour. And yeah, he can throw a pretty deep ball, but that doesn't do much. So Jalen Milroe, athletic freak, of course, but if you draft him, you can't start him right away. He's nowhere close.
No. And I know there's like mixed reviews, kind of. Trevor Sikkema of PFF, who's I think one of the best draft analysts out there, has him as the top quarterback in the class. And then Dom C, who I also think is one of the best draft analysts out there, has him going in the second round. So I just think the drop off there is so, tremendous in the sense of there's so many mixed opinions, inside of these college football guru, brains, to the point where some have him as the top quarterback and some have him in the second round, compared to someone like Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, who pretty, steady Eddie, and they all have them going in the top 2, top 4 of the draft. So it's so much that could happen.
Depending on where we pick, I think I'd just rather go somewhere else than quarterback, but that's not a problem for another day. I have a request. The last show of the year, could I be the third host?
Let's do it, Matt.
Why not?
Last show of the regular season
against the Dolphins too.
Yeah, last home game. Can I be the third host? Because I feel like I've been part of the show all year.
Let's do it.
I'm in.
Yes,
let's do it.
Yes. Main point. Who gives a shit about this game? Sorry for the language. One team will win, which will probably be the Dolphins. One team will lose, which will probably be the Jets. But let's just hope Braylon Allen, Garrett Wilson have a good day, so Doug can get in this fantasy playoffs and win some money.
There we go. Doug, appreciate you as always.
Guys, have a good one. Let's just have some entertaining football today.
There we go. Let the youngsters play.
Can't wait for the last show with third host Doug.
There we go.
Doug on the bed.
Appreciate you, Doug. Great stuff as always.
Looking forward to that show at the end of the year with Doug. That'll make the last game at least a little bit more entertaining. Something to get us forward to doing the pregame stream.
Yeah, absolutely. Because at that point, there's going to be nothing to talk about. The Week 18 pregame. I mean, we're going to be talking about Tyrod Taylor. Who knows? Maybe the Jets, claim Tim Boyle off the Giants practice squad, and he starts the final game against the Dodgers. I don't know. Well, there's so much that could happen from now until Week 18.
It feels like there's still a long way to go. I know we're in essentially the last month of the season now, as we're in December, but still, like, there's 5 games left. It feels like it's gonna drag.
Yeah, Matt, I want to get your thoughts on this, because obviously you've covered the team. What is this, your 5th season, 6th season?
Yeah, 5th or 6th.
Your 5th or 6th season. So this is my first full season covering the team. I covered the last 2 weeks of last season, actually, doing my podcast, writing, stuff like that. So I just had to sit through the whole off season. It's gotten to the point where the season just, boom, 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 goes by so quick. And it's like, all right, that's, 17 weeks of a season. And now we have to sit through 5-6 months of off-season talk, and it's especially boring. And like the January, February is so tough because there's not much to talk about. At least at the end of February, you have the combine, and then March is when draft starts to really heat up. There's free agency at the end of the March. Draft is in April, and then boom, it's another dead period from May all the way through end of July when the players report to training camp. So it feels like there's going to be so many dead periods from now until next season.
It definitely does. We have the inactive, so I could pull that up.
Yeah, let's do it
to talk about here.
Curious.
I'm not crazy surprised, but you got Breece Hall, Malachi Corley, Xavier Nixon, Quantez Stigers, Braden McGregor, and Sauce Gardner.
I'm a little surprised by the Corley inactive. One thing I want to see is Kene Nwangwu return kicks, and punts as well, because I think he showed so much electrifying play on special teams last week against Seattle. I want to see him in a more increased role. So set Xavier, take the punting duties away from punt returning duties away from Xavier Gipson, and let Kene Nwangwu return punts.
Yeah, he looked good on the kick return. He obviously housed it. He was an all-pro returner at one point in his career. I'm not opposed to that idea either.
Yeah, I want to see again. He's someone who's up for contract at the end of the season. If he can give you something to root for, why not bring him back on a 1-year deal?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely something that's on the table.
Yeah, and Stiggers, he's out with an illness. Newman, he's still recovering from that horrible injury in Pittsburgh. Corley is the only that I'm a bit surprised by. Like I said, I'd rather see Gibson on that list than Corley. McGregor, not a surprise. We know Sauce was out. So yeah, other than Corley, I'm not really shell shocked.
Yeah, the snap count. I just want to pull up Malachi Corley's snap counts the last few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
He did play 60%, which was the most by far that he's ever played this past week against Seattle. But with Allen Lazard back, this is kind of what they've did earlier in the year. And they're going to go 3 wide with Garrett Wilson, Allen Lazard, Devontae Adams. Clearly, you still have Xavier Gibson, who they like. So
Yeah.
I don't disagree that I would rather have Corley active than Gibson, but this Jets team likes Gibson more, which then begs the question, why'd you trade up and draft the guy?
Yeah, it's so funny because I think Jeff Ulbricht's 2 favorite players on this team are Michael Clemens and Xavier Gibson.
It feels that way some
Yeah.
weeks.
I think Clemens will be cut at the end of the year, and I think Gibson. I mean, what do you think Gibson's role even looks like in the future after what he's done this season? Wide receiver 6, practice squad, is he even
Yeah,
on the
maybe.
roster?
Yep. I would say there's a chance that he's not on the roster. I'm going to steal my line from earlier. Like, there's going to be favorites from the previous regime that this next staff doesn't like. And, I mentioned that with Tony Adams and Jamie and Sherwood. Like, Xavier Gibson is another one of
Yeah.
those guys who might be on the fringe.
I think a lot of it depends with Sherwood. You mentioned there. I think he gets a nice 3-year deal next season, a 3-4-year deal. But a lot of it depends is what defense is this team going to run? What schemes are they going to want to run? Because the current defense that the Jets are running right now, Jamie and Sherwood fits that scheme. But there's been schemes with the Jets where Jamie and Sherwood hasn't fit that scheme. For example, the past few seasons, that's why we haven't seen him get involved so much. So I think the biggest thing is, what is the plan for the new regime when they come in? I think someone to watch is Irv Charles. He has another one of those tenders. I don't know exactly. ERFA, I think it is his tender in the offseason. Again, you could bring him back for under $1 million. I think Irv comes back, and I think Gibson's probably a cut. And someone else I think Greg Zuerlein will be cut, obviously, at the end of the season. I think someone else to watch for a cut at the end of the season is Thomas Morstead. He's someone who's been okay this season. They signed him to a multi-year deal last offseason. Yeah, the punters on free agency, I think, are Johnny Hecker. Rigoberto Sanchez is someone to watch. I think they end up moving on from, Zuerlein and Morstead at the end of the season. They bring in, I think I have them re-signing Anders Carlson from what we've seen from him in a small sample size, and I have them seeking help from the punter position.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I don't think Morstead has been as dominant as what he was a year ago. It also save you some money. So, yeah, I think that's something that's on the table, maybe flying a little bit under the radar for some fans too, something they're not thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, you want to get some questions in the chat?
Yeah, let's go through the chat a little bit.
Let's see. We got our guy Dakota coming in well before the show starts. Miami will sweep the Jets for a second consecutive season, going 5-0 on the Jets when they currently have a 3-0 win streak against us in the last 3 meetings.
Yeah, I think they win today. It would not shock me if the Jets won in the last week of the year, because that's what the Jets usually tend to do when everyone's like, all right, they're finally eliminated. Let's just get the better draft pick. And then they win another game at the end of the year to close it out. I could see that happening here.
Now, what would you rather happen, Matt? The Jets, let's say we enter week 18 of the season. They currently have the 5th overall pick. If they lose, they get as high as the 4th overall pick, and if they win, they can get as low as the 6th overall pick. So not much happening with the draft position. But if the Jets beat Miami, Miami is automatically out of the playoffs. But if Miami wins, they're automatically in the playoffs. What would you rather happen, a win or a loss in that scenario?
I guess a win.
Yeah, I would. I would rather kill Miami's playoff chances and send them home in week 18 of the season than lose and get the 4th overall pick compared to the 6th overall pick.
Yeah,
that's just me. I'd rather crush another team's playoff chances, especially a division rival.
And I don't think there's anyone really in this draft where you're going, oh my God, like if they were at 4, they could have got this guy, and now they have to settle for this guy 2 picks later.
Yeah, Because it depends where Cam and Shadur fall. And it also depends who has the number 1 overall pick. Because if the Raiders have the number 1 overall pick, they're taking a quarterback. On the other hand, if the Jaguars have the number 1 overall pick, they just signed Trevor Lawrence to this huge extension. They're most likely going to pick a Travis Hunter. So again, so much that could happen. That's been my, motto really for this season, especially where we sit right now. There is so much that could happen as we approach the offseason. 6 seasons with the Jets, Rex Ryan went 46-50 as a head coach with a 4-2 playoff record. Rex led the Jets to an AFC Championship game in back-to-back years in 2009, 2010, ever since at coaching.
I don't know what the last line.
Yeah, I don't understand. I think the last coach. I think he tried to say the last coach who's ever done that for the Jets. Maybe that's what that says.
Yeah, I appreciate Rex for what he did in 2009 and 2010, but I don't want to go backwards and hire someone that was already here.
Also that, and one of my biggest things is I think Mangini built a lot of Rex's roster that went on to win those 2 AFC Championship games. You look at what Rex – first you can't forget the last season he had in New York that was not great, and he had no success in Buffalo without the – my biggest thing is I think Mangini built that roster. I thought Rex was a good head coach. I like him for his energy. I like him for, keeping players accountable. But I think the game is kind of passed by Rex, if you will. I mean, he last coached, 2016? It was 2016, right, Matt, with Buffalo?
Yeah, 15 and 16 were his 2 years in Buffalo. He got fired before the end of the 2016 season.
And he had no success in Buffalo, too, so that's also something to keep in mind. If I'm the Jets, I'm staying away from Rex, but I do think there's a chance that he becomes the team's next head coach. Let's see. Brian, Rodgers played scared all season, knew he was done after how slow he looked in preseason against the Giants 2 years ago, 1 touchdown, and everybody lost their minds.
You know, he was done from the preseason game 2 years ago. That's kind of wild. Okay.
Yeah, I can agree with you there, Brian, but we'll never know what Aaron Rodgers is like without that Achilles injury. Because, Matt, do you think, that Achilles injury is the main reason why we're seeing him, so sluggish really and slow recently? If he didn't have that Achilles injury, you think the Jets record looks much different?
I will never know. Unfortunately, we will never know because I think that did play a major factor in it. And I don't think he wants to take any hits, which is why he's getting the ball out and looks, a little bit nervous out there in the pocket.
Leonard Williams said exactly what I've been thinking after the game. It almost appears as, Matt, when Rodgers get pressured, I don't know if you've noticed this, when he gets pressured, it's like he curls up into a ball and ducks and just wants the guy to tackle him as quick as possible. It's like what made Rodgers such a good quarterback during his time with Green Bay is his ability to buy time, get out of the pocket, extend plays. That's what has led him to win these 4 NFL MVP awards. Now he looks scared, and it's like he's afraid to almost move out of the pocket, and it's like the guy's coming at me, all right, I'm just going to duck and try to take this hit and get it over with as quick as possible.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've noticed.
Yeah, let's see. Brian, again, what a joke. Remember, don't poke the bear. Where is that, Aaron? All I've seen is a grown man who puts all of his failures on others. That is no way to lead a team. Not sure where he gets off, but he got to go.
You could put up with some of the off the field stuff if he's playing well. I think the issue is he hasn't played well, so it just adds to it.
Yeah, Matt, I was talking to you before the show. I mentioned Mike Florio's pre-minicamp power rankings, and also how after the Jets' Week 3 win, Aaron Rodgers said the biggest struggle with this team is going to be trying to handle prosperity.
I wish that was the hardest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with this. His main thing is he's a polarizing figure for the off-field stuff, first off, Matt, like you mentioned, and also for his leadership. Some call him a cancer, some call him a great leader. But, I mean, where would you classify him right now? Would you put him more in the leader category or the cancer category?
I don't think he's been a great leader this year, unfortunately.
He's deflected a lot of blame. He really has. And Willie Colon called him out on the postgame show last week for what he said when, I think it was Rosenblatt who asked him the question in the media availability after the game, like, hey, do you take any accountability for this? He said there's 11 players on the there's 11 other guys on the field. Sometimes it's my fault, sometimes it's the other guys. He said something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good word, is passing the blame, and I think that kind of rubs off on the whole team because it feels like the Jets as a team, not just him but everyone involved, likes to point the finger, and it's not their own fault.
Yeah. Now Brian mentions moving on from him. Do you think the Jets want to do the pre-June 1 cut where they just eat all $49 million next season, or do you think they want to do the post-June 1 designation where I think they only have to eat $16 million next season and then take the rest in 2026? Do you think you just get it over with next year, or you spread it out? I've been mixed on this because I think this team has the talent to win. So if you eat all of that next year, you really have not a ton of cap room to make moves in free agency and re-sign guys. But again, at the same time, the teams, and they're just in such a weird space in terms of they have the talent to win and they want to enter full rebuild mode.
Yeah. I think you rip the Band-Aid off and you just get it over with in 2025, so you don't have to carry it over into 2 separate years.
Yeah, I understand that. Brian, again, let's be fair. Greg lost his 2 games. Aaron lost his 4. That's 6. So a Tyrod and a new kicker. We're at 9 dubs. All for this dude, Rodgers. Why they? Okay, I'm not going to read that last part, but yeah, yeah. I don't know about 9 wins, Matt. I think maybe this team. I still don't think they're 500 with a new quarterback and a new kicker.
I don't know. I think I'm going to give another really cliche answer, so you have to forgive me. But it's going to depend on the GM and the coaching hire. If they get that right, I think there's a chance they could be feisty because there's a lot of talent on this team. They just can't put it all together. But I think if you get the right people in here, there's a chance that they could be better than some are expecting. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win, 11 games and be a deep playoff favorite, but I don't know. Can they be like a annoying, feisty 7, 8, 9 win team next year? I think there's a path to that.
Yeah, I guess my response really to this question here is, Greg lost them 2 games, Aaron lost them 4. That was the same thing we said last year with Zach Wilson, whether it was the Falcons game, the Raiders game, the Week 3 Patriots game, that if we just had competent quarterback play, this team last year I think would have been 10. I think if they had Tyrod last year, they seriously would have been 10-7. This year, I don't know. I say at best the Jets are what? I think at best the Jets have 6 wins right now, at the absolute best. Jets have 6 wins. What is that? They're 6-6. I think absolute best right now, the Jets would be 6-6. Matt, what do you think there?
Yeah, that's a best case scenario. And obviously the kicking problems really amplified things, I think, earlier in the year. But it's just, I don't want to, I feel like that's such an easy out. Be like, oh, if they were, if they had a good kicker, then they'd be a 6-win team, or if this went right or if that went right. But, the reality is, I think, unfortunately, this isn't a very good team all around. And some of the little things have come back to bite them. And when you're a good team, things just tend to break right for you.
Absolutely. Tony, the GM. We Jaguars versus Titans, Giants versus Saints. If Jets lose out, they pass Patriots on strength of schedule. I think he's talking about draft position here. Matt, you still rooting for wins?
I'm not really rooting for anything. I'm kind of just going into be like, if they win, okay, I'll spin it one way. If they lose, that's fine. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to go out and like actively root for a loss. So I can't say that I'm actively rooting for a loss, but if they win this game, I'm not going to come out and be like all amped up and super excited about it. I'm kind of just in a spot where it is what it is.
Let's see. We got D-Bone. I give it up. It's inconvincible that Zach Wilson gave us a better chance to win than Aaron Rodgers. Pathetic.
I hate that this year has given any ammunition, as silly as the ammunition is, to any Zach Wilson truthers.
Yeah. Maybe they win 1 or 2. I really don't know if they'd win another game with Zach Wilson. I just, from what he's put on tape with his time with the Jets, you think it was the biggest draft bust in Jets history?
Yeah, I would say yes, because of the position.
Yeah, that, and also Christian Hackenberg gets thrown around so much, and you can argue either way. At least Zach played nearly 3 fully starting seasons with the Jets. Hackenberg never saw the field, but again, Hackenberg was a 2nd-round pick. He was not. He was a hyped-up prospect, but not as hyped up as Zach Wilson. The crazy athleticism, the deep ball, the number 2 can't-miss overall pick behind Trevor Lawrence. And it was so funny, Matt, because I felt like all season that year leading up to that draft, it was Justin Fields. The Jets are going to draft Justin Fields. And then the month before the draft, that happens every year. There's that one player who just skyrockets off the board, and it was Zach Wilson that year.
Yeah, it was. He came on strong at the end of the year, and honestly, it looks like none of those quarterbacks have lived up to the expectation from that draft class.
I'd say Fields was the best, though, right? You have to. I don't think Lawrence has shown enough. Mac Jones is unwatchable, and Fields is the most fun to watch. You'd have to say, right, Matt?
He's definitely the most fun. Lawrence has been disappointing, but I would still say Lawrence has been the best of everyone, even over Fields.
Yeah, you could say that. Let's see. Expect Tua to carve up the Jets defense today. Unfortunately, this defense is Swiss cheese this year.
It is. I think Tua's going to have a big game. I think they put up 30 points offensively at least today.
What do you think Tua's final line looks like? 20 yards, 325, something along those lines?
Yeah, and probably three passing touchdowns.
3 touchdowns. I think a lot of it's going to be Devon Achane in the screen game. I think it's going to be a lot of these, quick dump offs, Achane out of the backfield and yards after catch is I think what's going to absolutely kill the Jets today. Also,
it usually does.
Tyreek Hill, he hasn't really been a part of he had a big week last week, but in prior weeks, he hasn't really been a part of the Dolphins game plan. What do you think his role looks like against the Jets today? Do you expect a big game out of him?
No, I think Jalen Waddle has the big game. He had that huge catch against them last year, and I think we see something similar again this year.
All right, yeah, I'm a huge fan of Waddle. I have since he was drafted. I think a lot of it with the Dolphins game plan, it depends on the week how they want to utilize different guys at different times. Like we've seen weeks where Tyreek Hill has this crazy breakout game, and then we've seen performances where Tyreek Hill, gets 2 receptions for 15 yards. It just really depends on the week and how the Dolphins game plan entering. Do they want to use him as a main figure of the offense, or they want to use him as kind of in a decoy role? So I think it really depends there. Let's see. P.D. Rose would be the best thing for us. F-Man, remember when Jets were AFC faves and Rodgers was a top 3 MVP candidate? What a bizarre season. F football so hard.
Yeah, it has been a bizarre season, which goes back to one of your questions from early on in the stream where you're like, is this the most disappointing season in Jets history? And it's hard not to say yes.
Yeah.
Because of that specific reason.
Yeah, because there was just so much hype and anticipation. Like you said, if Aaron Rodgers could play top 15 quarterback, NFL caliber football, this team's gonna go 11-6. I had them going 10-7, Matt. I had them going 10-7. Would you have them going? I don't remember. Were you a 12-5 guy?
Before this year, I said 11-6.
11-6. So yeah, I said 10-7. So I know one of the beat reporters who I have on my show quite often, Antoine Staley, was like the only person I think who really anticipated. He had the Jets missing the playoffs somehow, some way, and he got a lot of grief for it at the time. He was right, but even I was talking to him, I had him on the show this week, and he's like, I never expected to go this bad. So even the pessimistic Jet fans, I don't think even anticipated for a 3-9 season.
No, I think the most pessimistic thing that I saw was like an 8 or 9 win season, which it's going to take a miracle to get to 8 wins.
And then you have the Mike Florios and the Nick Wrights, the Colin Cowards of the world. So, from a Jet fan standpoint, yeah, I think you're right there, Matt. Let's see. Signed punt god Areza in the offseason. His legal troubles are long behind him at this point.
Isn't he in?
He's with KC, I think. Oh, yeah. Isn't he with? I always get him mixed up with Torrey Taylor. Torrey Taylor is the rookie from Iowa who punts for the Bears. Matt Araiza, I think he's with KC.
Yeah, he is. I don't think he's leaving Kansas City.
Yeah, and he's had a good year. Well, I think the Bills obviously drafted him, and then he had that whole legal thing that came out. That's all behind him now, and he's having a great year, I think, with Kansas City. So he was available. Can't hurt to take a flyer. Again, I want a new punter next season. JT, appreciate you tuning in. Let's see. Jay Hales, I think it's a fantastic idea. Vrabel is solid. Who else would you put, Matt, in your A tier other than Vrabel? I know you threw out some other names, but who would you really put in that A untouchable kind of tier?
Untouchable is hard. Vrabel, I think, is up there. I like Flores, and I also like Todd Monken. Those are my 3 favorite, I would say.
Where would you put my guy, Cliff Kingsbury?
I would put him in that next tier.
That, A- B+ type range?
In that range. I would say so.
I understand that. I'm just putting the guys in A who have head coaching experience. That's what I like. Like I'd much rather take a Brian Flores over someone like a Todd Monken, who's a head coach at the college level, but not at the NFL level. I also don't think Monken's going to come here. Back to the Ben Johnson point, there's no quarterback for him to develop. So why would an up and come? Well, not necessarily up and coming. I think Todd Monken's 58 years old. Why would someone like him, who's trying to first start off their NFL head coaching career, start with a team that has no quarterback and is in for what could be a long-term rebuild? So it really depends, what a head coach is looking for. That's why, again, what you mentioned, Matt, the Ben Johnson laundry list of things isn't gonna work. Let's see. Jay, to be honest, don't sleep on Rex Ryan. Remember what Coach brought to the Jets, 2 AFC championship games. But like I said, Matt, don't you think the game is just past him?
That's 15 years ago with the success that he had. I'm not going to ever deny that he did have success. Of course he did. And he's a very fun coach, but that's my fear with guys like Gruden and guys like Rex Ryan is the things that these people talk about and point to their success is 15 plus years ago. So I just don't know if they're able to do it in the modern game because they haven't proved it.
Yeah. I mean, John Gruden hasn't had success in so long. At least Rex Ryan has had success. Ryan's still getting up there. I mean, that's over, 2010. That's over a decade ago. So yeah, I like I said, I think the game has passed by these guys. Matthew, is Tannenbaum being a consultant for the Jets at the same time for working in ESPN a conflict of interest? Matt, it's through the 33rd team. To Matthew, Matthew, it's through the 33rd team. So Tannenbaum is helping spearhead the Jets search. He's technically not a part of the organization, but yep. Matt, do you think this role can lead into something where Tannenbaum joins the team as in some sort of advisory consultant role, or no?
No, I think this is just for the GM and head coaching search. It's pretty common for teams to hire outside help. Spielman did it last year with the Commanders, so I think it's kind of just for helping the Jets along at this point.
Yeah. PD Rose ready for Travis 25. Suck for Arch Manning. If it sucks for whatever for Arch Manning, Matt, I wouldn't be surprised if Jordan Travis never takes a snap in the NFL. That broken leg injury is absolutely gruesome.
It was a really gruesome injury, and I mentioned it with now Tony Adams and Xavier Gibson and like all these guys. The GM, it's going to depend on how the new GM and coach felt about Jordan Travis pre-draft. If they weren't a Jordan Travis guy, they don't really owe it to him. They didn't draft him. 2, it's a day 3 pick. Like that's not me saying that there's no chance that Jordan Travis can work out at this level. He absolutely can, but I don't think they have like this obligation almost, if you will, to play him next year or go into that season with him as their guy because frankly he's kind of just someone who's here.
Yeah, it's almost like an extra body. I saw a comment from Doug earlier. I've heard it floating around on some of these other shows. Matt, I was just kind of Adrian Martinez, the thought of possibly starting him the remainder of the games, whether it's week 18. I know Rodgers Elbrick said he's sticking with Rodgers. Would you rather see Tyrod come in or Adrian Martinez?
Probably Tyrod, because I think you could evaluate the rest of the roster better.
Yeah. Yeah, but we also it's hard because we know what Tyrod Taylor is at 35 years old compared to Adrian Martinez. But I'd still rather start. I don't think under any circumstance Adrian Martinez will play a snap for the Jets this season.
I don't. Adrian Martinez is a funny one. He had which preseason game was the good one from him? He had like one.
I think it was the
Commanders.
It was the Commanders game where he put them in position to get the game-winning field goal. I actually couldn't watch that game live, and I remember watching it on like replay on NFL Pro a day or so later, and I remember him balling out. And then he also had an okay Panthers game, I think it was.
Yeah, there was one of the preseason games where he didn't look great, and before that, he was a little bit better.
Yeah, because it was the Commanders game. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. And then I saw some tweets of someone buying like an Adrian Martinez Jets jersey. It was insane. That was the moment where after Rodgers is gone, he's going to be the franchise quarterback for the Jets. So again, I don't think Adrian Martinez will play a snap for the Jets this season. Let's see, our guy Kim Jamie, I absolutely suck at calling Jets games, so I'm just going to say I hope the Jets make you guys proud. A Jets win would really be fun for me. King Jamie, appreciate you tuning in as a Chiefs fan. Really appreciate all the support and you sticking with us. Let's see. Patrick, who should the Jets target? The first round, people saying that the kid from Michigan interior defense, Mason Graham, I think he's the best run stuffer in the country, in my opinion, to go along with Quentin McDonald, Johnson, Turn on the ends. It's a pretty good D-line. Matt, would you rather go with Mason Graham, who's an elite run stuffer, or try to, take a shot at the quarterback up there early?
Yeah, I think Mason Graham is slowly becoming one of my favorite options for the Jets at the top of the draft. I think Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are both going to be taken before the Jets pick. That's just my prediction for where the Jets end up. And if the teams like the Raiders and the Giants are in front of them, I think the Jets won't have a chance to take one of those guys. So if that's the case, then I would say my preference would be Mason Graham.
Yeah, you take him over a guy like Milroe?
Yes, I would.
Okay. So you'd rather prioritize at that point then are you taking him because you think run stuffing's a need, or are you taking him because you think he's the best overall player on the board?
Likely both. I do
Okay.
think they desperately need someone on the on the interior of this defensive line. Next to Quinnen Williams, they've been really bad against the run this year. I think it's a big need, and I think he is one of the top players towards this draft. Milroe scares me taking that early. I'm not. If this was someone you could get in the second round, I understand taking a flyer on him. But with a top 10 pick, I don't know if I could justify it.
All right, yeah, I understand that. Again, he's someone who's a controversial prospect. Like I mentioned earlier, someone like Domsey has him going in the second round, while Trevor Sikkema of PFF has him as the top quarterback in the class. That's something I don't like when there's so much separation between draft analysts on a player. Let's see. You see anything? Oh, here we go. King Jimmy. Had the Jets taken Eric Bieniemy as head coach a couple of years back, the Jets would be 9-3 right now. I hope he comes back to KC as OC till Andy retires and then takes our head coaching job. Matt, my gripe with Bieniemy is I don't think he would have had success with the Jets, just because I think a lot of his success in KC was attributed to the Andy Reid kind of head coaching tree.
Yeah, and now Bieniemy's out.
I just saw that from Schefter yesterday. Yeah,
that's kind of a big fall from grace, right? Like he was once looked at as a very legitimate head coaching candidate, never got that chance, and now I think he's going to try to get back into the NFL, but I don't know in what capacity.
Yeah, let's see. I got something. I got something cool here. You mentioned Drew Allar. I continue seeing comments. Just got this from my guy Stefan Stelling of Jets X Factor, who just sent it to me. So look at this post from Drew Allar. Garrett Wilson. Can you see it, Matt? Is it hard to see?
Yeah, it's coming through.
All right, so it says Garrett Wilson liked it, and then Olu Fashionu said, "Let him know." And Allar responded, "JTS Jets Jets Jets." So that's a little something there, Matt. Little social media talk from your guy Allar.
Make it happen.
There we go. Love it. Let's see. Jay, guys, the only thing will prove to me this organization is serious about changing the culture. We have to trade assets, picks, or players for an established coach. No puppets.
Yeah, no puppets. I don't think they're gonna trade a draft pick though for an established coach. That doesn't seem likely.
Matt, you think they could do that with Shanahan though? Possibly if he's up, you do like a day 3, something like that. I
would do whatever it takes to get Kyle Shanahan. I just don't think the 49ers actually move on from him.
Yeah, I think they stick with him no matter what. 49ers and the Bengals, Matt, are kind of having a similar season. I think injuries have, quite frankly, just derailed both of their entire seasons, because
100%.
Both of them are very good teams. Like on paper, they're very good teams, and they've shown they're able to have success in this league. It's just injuries and what's happened really overall has killed their season. Daniel, Matt, and Connor, what are plans in re-signing Sherwood? Miami could use a linebacker. Matt, we spoke about this towards the top of the show, but kind of refresh everyone's brain here. What are your thoughts on Sherwood?
Yeah, I think there's a chance that he's back, but again, it's going to be dependent on what kind of scheme the new head coach and defensive coordinator are looking to run. I thought Sherwood was better early on in the season. I thought he's kind of like just stabled out and been mostly okay. I think it's going to depend on what kind of contract you're giving him. I don't know if I'm like super comfortable giving him like this massive, huge payday. I think of him more as a third linebacker than I do a starting 2.
Absolutely. And we see Brian coming in here, Riley Leonard from Notre Dame. You like Leonard, Matt? I mean, he's someone who was at Duke the first few seasons of his collegiate career. Now he's at Notre Dame having some success. I think he's a day 3 guy, really.
Yeah, he doesn't really move the needle a ton for me. He's been 4 years at the collegiate level, first 3 with Duke. He was significantly better this year at Notre Dame. But I don't think he's one of my favorite quarterbacks from this class.
Yeah, I agree. Again, I think he's kind of, towards maybe a 3rd round, 4th round type guy. I don't think he's worth taking a flyer on, though, if I'm the Jets. Let's see. Matthew, guys watching 30 for 30 on ESPN Friday as features the Stack Exchange must-watch TV. Matt, did you see anything on this? I saw, obviously, they're doing it. I didn't see exactly when it's coming out, though.
Yeah, I think on Friday is what
Okay. Yeah, I'm
Matthew's
gonna
saying
watch that.
here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch it. The Sack Exchange, obviously, great era of Jets football. So
Yeah.
curious to really see. Yeah, all those guys get highlighted. They deserve the
Yeah.
attention.
And then we saw Matt. I don't know if you, I think everyone pretty much knows this by now. The Aaron Rodgers documentary coming out on December 17th on Netflix. Announced it on the McAfee show. What do you think that's going to be like? I saw a trailer and there's clips from him on like his ayahuasca darkness retreats.
I will not be spending any of my time watching that.
Oh wow, really? Why not? What don't you want to see about it? The ayahuasca stuff?
I don't have any interest in Aaron Rodgers' trip to Egypt this past offseason. Doesn't move me.
He's gonna get so much hate for that once that actually comes out because of missing that 1-day mini camp that still is in the. I've seen comments saying that that's one of the reasons that he's not having any success this season, that he missed the 2 days of mandatory mini camp when they were practicing in no pads. So
Could be.
yeah, could be. Let's see. We got Kin Jamie 111 watching, not even 50 likes. Come on, man, hit the like. Jamie, appreciate it. And yes, everyone smash the like button. Subscribe to both of our channels at Matt O'Leary NY at NY Flight Jets Talk. See, we don't have any more comments left. You want to get your final questions, comments, super chats, thoughts in the chat. You can just throw them in. We'll get to them. You want to call into the show, pin comment in the chat. We're going to wrap things up here shortly. Matt, hot take for today's game.
Oh, I almost forgot about our hot take segment. Always got to get into something. I feel we're going to get a random touchdown today. Is Xavier Gibson random enough?
For sure.
All right, Xavier Gibson touchdown on a rush, also not on Xavier Gibson rushing touchdown.
I have a rushing touchdown too, but it's from Kene Nwangwu. Kene Nwangwu gets some action out of the backfield, and he trots his way into the end zone for like a 4 or 5 yard touchdown. But Matt, we have about 55 minutes until game time here. You mentioned you're kind of numb entering the game. If you had to pick one thing though to root for, a win or a loss, what are you going with?
I would rather them win, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just can't sit there and be like a good play happens and me be like upset about it,
Yeah.
So I want to see Garrett Wilson have a big day. I'm a big fan of Garrett's game. So I'd be happy if Garrett Wilson plays well.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. Guy Hennessy Heisman is a G5 TD. We'll end here on this one. Trey, not sure if you talked about it today, but what are your stat predictions for Isaiah Davis?
I would say maybe 3 carries. I don't think he gets a ton of action.
Really? I think it's like 5 carries, 2 5 I guess is not a ton. 5 or 6 carries, 2 or 3 catches out of the backfield.
I think they're going to be down early, so I don't think they're going to run the ball a lot.
Yeah, I could see them throwing the ball a lot today. If the Jets win the toss, are you taking the ball or deferring?
Take it. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm thinking too. Get aggressive, make a statement. Early on, Jay Hells wants to see Corley action. He's actually scratched today. Jay Hells, he's inactive, and Peter Castro, our guy tuning in, is not happy with Corley being inactive. And Sharon says, Jets 24-23, come on, it's my birthday, JTS. Happy birthday, Sharon, and hopefully the Jets can come away with a dub for you.
Hopefully they win for you.
There we go. Anyways, Matt, looks like that'll do it for us. Another pregame show in the books. You got any final thoughts?
Another one down. 4 more to go after this.
There we go. He's Matt O'Leary. I'm Connor Long, and we will see you next time on another edition of our pregame shows. Everyone, smash the like button. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Appreciate all the support.